The Snake Lady was known across the hidden world as Nyxera, the half-woman, half-serpent who ruled the forgotten rainforest valley where moonlight barely touched the ground. From the waist up, Nyxera was breathtakingly beautiful, smooth bronze skin that gleamed like polished gold, long jet-black hair that flowed down her back like a waterfall of silk, sharp cheekbones, and glowing emerald eyes that never blinked. Her lips were full and dangerous, often curved in a calm, unreadable smile. From the waist down, her body transformed into the powerful, coiled body of a massive jet-black serpent, her scales glossy and armored like living obsidian. Ancient symbols glowed faintly along her scales, marking her as cursed and blessed at the same time. She had lived for centuries without aging, feared by hunters, worshipped by cultists, and avoided by all who valued their lives. Far beyond her jungle kingdom, in a ruined Gothic town swallowed by eternal night, lived Lord Alaric Voss, the vampire male who would change her destiny. Lord Alaric was tall and lean, his presence commanding even in stillness. His skin was pale like marble, untouched by warmth, and his silver eyes glowed faintly whenever hunger stirred within him. His hair was long, ash blonde, often tied back at his neck, and his face was sharp, high cheekbones, narrow lips, and eyes that held centuries of sorrow. He dressed in a long black coat lined with crimson silk, his boots silent on stone. As a pure-blood vampire, he was immortal, immensely powerful, and cursed with eternal loneliness. He fed only to survive, never to enjoy, having lost his humanity long ago in a betrayal that still haunted his sleepless nights. Nyxera had ruled her territory alone for over 400 years. Men who stumbled into her valley either fled in terror or were never seen again. She felt no need for love, no pull toward companionship. Her heart, if it could still be called that, had grown cold with isolation and survival. Yet on the night the moon turned blood red, the ancient wards around her forest were broken. Nyxera sensed it instantly, a foreign presence stepping into her sacred land. Her emerald eyes burned brighter as her massive body coiled silently around the roots of a giant tree. Something powerful had entered her domain. Something undead. Lord Alaric had not come by choice. A rival vampire coven had hunted him across continents, forcing him to cross forbidden barriers. His powers weakened as he passed through the ancient ward, the magic clawing at his undead flesh like invisible fire. He staggered into the rainforest, his boots sinking into wet earth. Blood, his own corrupted, dark blood, dripped from a wound in his side. Even injured, he moved with predatory grace, unaware that every step brought him closer to the Serpent Queen, watching from the shadows. Nyxera studied him silently. She saw his pale skin, his unnatural eyes, the slow, wounded way he moved. Vampire, she realized, her coils tightened with quiet interest. Vampires rarely ventured into her lands. Superstitions kept them away, whispers of a monster that even monsters feared. She could kill him in seconds if she wished. Her venom could melt bone. Her strength could crush steel. Yet something about the way he fought to stay standing stirred a strange curiosity within her ancient heart. Alaric, weakened and half-blind with pain, felt a sudden shift in the air. The jungle fell unnaturally silent. His instincts screamed danger. Slowly, he lifted his head. That was when he saw her. Emerging from the shadows like living mythology, Nyxera revealed herself, her massive serpent body coiling forward, her human upper body rising elegantly above the forest floor. Her emerald eyes locked onto his silver ones. For a long moment, predator and predator stared at each other in deadly stillness. "Leave." Nyxera's voice echoed through the trees, smooth, cold, and powerful. "You bleed on sacred ground, vampire." Alaric did not draw a weapon. He did not attack. Instead, he dropped to one knee, exhausted, one hand pressed to his wound. "I did not come to challenge you," he said hoarsely. "Only to survive." His silver eyes met hers without fear, only weary honesty. That alone shocked her. No human ever dared look at her that way. For the first time in centuries, Nyxera hesitated before killing an intruder. She felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest, curiosity, mixed with a strange pull she did not yet understand. The vampire lord swayed, barely conscious, his fate balanced between her mercy and her fangs. As the blood-red moon climbed higher above the jungle canopy, Nyxera moved closer to him, unaware that this single decision would unravel both their immortal destinies. Nyxara, the snake lady, remained towering over the fallen vampire as the jungle breathed around them in slow, damp whispers. From the waist up, her human form was striking smooth bronze skin that reflected faint moonlight, long jet-black hair flowing freely down her back, sharp sculpted cheekbones, and glowing emerald eyes that pierced through darkness. From the waist down, her enormous jet-black serpent body lay coiled in powerful loops, each glossy scale armored and etched with ancient glowing symbols that pulsed faintly with forbidden magic. Her beauty was the kind that hid death beneath elegance. Poison lived in her fangs, power lived in her coils, and wisdom lived in eyes that had seen empires rise and crumble. She studied the wounded intruder with unreadable calm. Lord Alaric Voss knelt in the wet earth before her, tall even in his weakened state, his lean, immortal body trembling under the strain of the ward's damage. His pale, marble-like skin was streaked with dark blood seeping from a deep gash at his side. His long, ash-blonde hair clung to his face with sweat that never should have existed in an undead being. His silver eyes, glowing faintly even through pain, reflected the serpent queen before him. He wore his signature black coat, trimmed with crimson silk, now torn and soaked through with blood. As a pure-blood vampire male, his strength was legendary, his speed unnatural, his mind centuries old, yet in this moment, he was helpless inside enemy territory. Nyxara circled him slowly, her massive serpent body sliding across the forest floor without sound. Leaves crunched softly beneath her weight. She could hear the slowed beat of his damaged, undead heart, smell the corrupted blood dripping onto her sacred soil. Every instinct she possessed urged her to strike to remove the trespasser and restore the balance. Yet, curiosity stayed her fangs. "Your kind avoids my lands," she said calmly. "Yet here you crawl, bleeding and unarmed. Did death finally reject you, vampire?" Alaric lifted his head with effort, refusing to bow despite his weakness. "My enemies drove me here," he replied in a strained but controlled voice. 3 covens want me destroyed. I crossed your ward because I had no other path left." His silver eyes searched her emerald ones. "Kill me if you must, but know that I did not come seeking your blood." The honesty in his voice unsettled her. Nyxara had heard centuries of lies from men, monsters, and spirits alike. This vampire spoke not with fear or arrogance, but with resignation. She sensed no deceit in him, only exhaustion and the heavy weight of a life too long lived in violence. Slowly, she extended her human hand toward him, her long fingers tipped with faintly glowing claws. With delicate precision, she touched the edge of his wound. A soft hiss escaped her lips as her ancient magic assessed the damage. "If I leave you like this, the jungle will finish what you enemies started before dawn." "I am aware," Alaric murmured, his vision blurred. The forest spun, yet even as darkness threatened to claim him, his eyes remained locked on her face, the deadly beauty, the calm authority, the loneliness he unexpectedly recognized in her gaze. Against every instinct forged through 4 centuries of blood and survival, Nyxara made a choice that shocked even herself. With a command only the forest spirits obeyed, the vines around them shifted, forming a protective barrier. She wrapped one powerful coil of her serpent body loosely around Alaric's legs, not to crush, but to steady him. The chill of her scales sent a shock through his undead nerves. With her free hand, she lifted him effortlessly against her upper body. Vampire and serpent, predator and monster, pressed together in an unnatural alliance. She carried him deep into her hidden lair beneath the roots of an ancient stone tree, a cavern glowing faintly with bioluminescent moss and enchanted crystals. Nyxara laid him upon a slab of smooth black rock at the center of the chamber. As she straightened, her towering half-human, half-serpent form filled the cavern with silent authority. "Do not mistake this for mercy," she warned him coldly. "If you threaten my realm, I will end you without hesitation." Alaric attempted to rise, but failed, collapsing back with a low breath. "I would not dare," he said quietly. Then, after a pause, "Why save me at all?" Nyxara turned away, her long black hair swaying with the movement. "Because killing you now is easy," she answered. "Understanding why fate dragged a pureblood vampire into my domain is not." Yet deep within her chest, a strange sensation stirred an unfamiliar warmth that confused and unsettled her ancient heart. The healing began that night, but it was not a simple process. Nyxara fed enchanted herbs into the wound, grinding them with her claws and pressing the glowing paste into Alaric's torn flesh. The venom within her blood reacted with the vampire's curse in volatile ways. Pain ripped through his body as dark smoke rose from the injury. He groaned but did not scream. Through half-lidded silver eyes, he watched her work her focused expression, the subtle glow of magic along her scales, the calm control with which she wielded death and life alike. For the first time in centuries, Alaric felt not hunted, not feared but protected. As dawn approached beyond the thick jungle canopy, the wound finally sealed. Alaric's strength slowly returned, his immortal body knitting itself back together under the strange influence of serpent magic. Nyxara withdrew, coiling her massive body near the cavern wall, watching him silently. Neither of them slept. Both of them felt it, the invisible shift in destiny that had begun the moment she chose not to strike. Outside, the rival covens closed in on the valley. Inside, two ancient predators lay under the same roof, their fates now dangerously intertwined. Nyxara, the snake lady of the shadowed rainforest, remained coiled near the glowing cavern wall, her massive jet-black serpent body resting in silent strength. From the waist up, her human form was flawless yet terrifying, smooth bronze skin untouched by age, long jet-black hair flowing over her shoulders, sharp regal cheekbones, and piercing emerald eyes that glowed with ancient power. Faint mystical symbols shimmered along her glossy scales, marking her as a creature born of curse and royalty. Her upper body moved with slow, elegant precision, while her lower body, thick and muscular, carried the crushing power of a true serpent queen. Every breath she took carried authority, danger, and an unsettling grace. Lord Alaric Voss lay upon the black stone slab at the center of the cavern, recovering strength as his cursed immortal body completed its unnatural healing. He was tall and lean, his frame built for predation rather than comfort. His pale marble-like skin now looked smoother where the wound had closed, leaving only a faint dark mark behind. His long ash-blonde hair fell loosely around his sharp features, framing his narrow lips and high cheekbones. His silver eyes, no longer dimmed by pain, now glowed faintly in the low light, alert and calculating. Dressed in his torn black coat, lined with crimson silk, boots scuffed and stained with blood and mud, he still carried the commanding presence of a pure-blood vampire male who had ruled and destroyed for centuries. Alaric slowly pushed himself into a seated position, testing his strength. The venom-tainted magic in his veins burned faintly, unfamiliar but stabilizing. He studied Nyxara with measured caution. "You healed me with your venom," he said quietly. "Most creatures would have died from it." Nyxara's emerald eyes narrowed slightly as she shifted one powerful coil. "Most creatures are not pure-blood vampires," she replied coldly. "Your curse resisted my poison. That alone makes you dangerous." Her gaze hardened. "Do not mistake survival for safety, Lord Undead." A faint, humorless smile touched Alaric's lips. "Then we are alike. Both dangerous, both cursed, both alive far longer than either of us desired." His silver eyes lingered on her glowing scales, her calm but lethal posture. "You rule this forest alone?" "I rule because I must," Nyxara answered. "Loneliness is the tax of power." Her words carried no softness, yet something ancient stirred beneath her tone. Silence stretched between them, heavy with tension and unspoken recognition. Then, without warning, the enchanted moss on the cavern walls flickered violently. Nyxara's coils tightened instantly. Outside, a distant unnatural howl echoed through the jungle, followed by another and another. Vampire scent, many of them. Alaric's expression darkened. His silver eyes sharpened as his instincts screamed danger. "They have found me," he said softly. "Your valley is no longer hidden." Nyxara rose higher, her massive serpent body uncoiling with controlled fury. The cavern trembled slightly under her movement. "Your enemies dare to bring their war into my realm? They will not stop until my head is displayed before their covens," Alaric replied. "And now, until you are dealt with as well." A dangerous silence fell. Nyxara's emerald eyes glowed brighter, ancient power stirring beneath her scales. "Then your existence now threatens my balance," she said calmly. "By ancient law, I should kill you myself and offer your ashes to the forest spirits." Alaric met her gaze without flinching. "You can still do that," he said. But if you kill me, my enemies will come harder. They will not believe I died by your hand, and they will burn your forest searching for proof." For the first time since he entered her realm, uncertainty flickered across Nyxara's flawless face. She had slaughtered armies. She had crushed sorcerers. But vampire covens were different, organized, relentless, and fueled by immortal hatred. Her forest could bleed. "And if I let you live?" she asked slowly. "Then I fight beside you," Alaric said. "I know their tactics, their weaknesses, their leaders." His silver eyes held unwavering resolve. "I did not survive 3 centuries of vampire wars by hiding." Seen in Steres, Nyxara studied him in heavy silence. The serpent in her coiled tighter, weighing fate with ancient patience. Finally, she spoke. "If I protect you, Lord Alaric Voss, you become bound to this valley. You fight for it as you would for your own undead kingdom." Alaric rose fully to his feet, strength now restored, his tall, lean form steady once more. He placed one hand over his chest in a formal, ancient vampire oath. "Then by blood and shadow, I am bound." Outside, the howls drew closer. The jungle itself began to tremble as unnatural footsteps crushed foliage and snapped branches. Nyxara turned toward the cavern entrance, her massive coils sliding forward with quiet menace. Alaric moved beside her, the crimson lining of his coat catching the glow of the enchanted crystals. 2 monsters stood side by side for the first time, Serpent Queen and Vampire Lord, bound by necessity rather than trust. Beyond the cavern walls, an army of undead hunters closed in, and from the moment the first shadow crossed the forest boundary, war became inevitable. Nyxara, the snake lady of the forbidden rainforest, rose to her full terrifying height at the mouth of the cavern. From the waist up, her human form remained flawlessly beautiful, smooth bronze skin glowing faintly in the magical light, long jet-black hair cascading down her back, sharp, regal cheekbones, and blazing emerald eyes filled with ancient wrath. From the waist down, her massive jet-black serpent body stretched across the stone floor in thick, muscular coils, each glossy scale carved with glowing ancient symbols pulsing with power. She was death and royalty fused into one immortal form, a creature born of curse and command, feared by spirits and monsters alike. Beside her stood Lord Alaric Voss, the pureblood vampire male, tall and lean with predatory stillness. His pale, marble-like skin reflected the dim glow of the enchanted cavern, his sharp features carved with centuries of cold wisdom. Long ash-blonde hair framed his face, falling past narrow lips and high cheekbones that rarely showed emotion. His silver eyes now shone with renewed strength, alert and deadly once more. His black coat, lined with deep crimson silk, billowed slightly as unseen energies from the approaching covens stirred the air. Though undead, his presence was no less commanding than Nyxara's. The first of the rival vampires burst through the jungle barrier with savage force. Dark figures leapt between trees with inhuman speed, red eyes flashing, fangs bared. The wards Nyxara had enforced for centuries shattered like fragile glass. The forest screamed as ancient magic was violated. Nyxara's emerald eyes flared brighter, her coils tightening with restrained fury. "They desecrate sacred ground," she said coldly. "For that alone, they die." Alaric stepped forward, his silver eyes locking onto the approaching horde. "Their leader is Varseth," he said. "He feeds on other vampires to grow stronger. He will not stop until both of us fall." His fingers curled slowly into claws as his vampiric power awakened fully. The first attackers struck without hesitation. 2 vampires lunged from opposite sides with blinding speed. Nyxara moved first. Her massive serpent body whipped forward like living lightning. One coil crushed the first attacker mid-air, bones shattering with a thunderous snap. Her fangs sank into the second before it could land, venom flooding its undead veins and turning the creature to blackened ash within seconds. Her upper human body remained calm and steady, even as death unfolded beneath her. Alaric launched himself into the fray with deadly elegance. His speed blurred the air. One moment he stood beside Nyxara, then he was among the enemy. His claws tore through black coats and immortal flesh. Fangs flashed as he fed only long enough to weaken, then finished his enemies with brutal precision. Each movement was refined by centuries of hunting his own kind. Though weakened earlier, he now fought with terrifying mastery. Wave after wave of vampires flooded the valley. The ground shook beneath their numbers. The jungle burned in places where dark magic scorched roots and vines. Nyxera coiled and struck again, crushing, injecting venom, flinging enemy bodies into trees with monstrous force. Her emerald eyes glowed like twin stars of judgment. Alaric fought beside her in synchronized destruction, his silver eyes reflecting fire and blood, his long coat whipping like a shadow in motion. For the first time in her immortal life, Nyxera fought beside another ruler rather than above all others. And for the first time in his cursed existence, Alaric fought not for survival alone, but for another being's realm. Then the air shifted. A massive dark presence emerged from the tree line. The lesser vampires instantly parted. Varseth stepped forward taller than the rest, his skin nearly black with corrupted power, his crimson eyes burning with hunger. His aura alone poisoned the air. So, Varseth hissed, his gaze locking onto Alaric. You hide behind a serpent goddess now? Nyxera's coils tightened. You stand on ground that will devour you, she warned. Varseth laughed, a twisted sound. Your venom cannot kill what feeds on immortal blood. Before either of them could strike, Varseth moved with impossible speed, vanishing in one shadow and reappearing in another, his blade of dark magic aimed straight for Nyxera's human heart. Alaric saw it before anyone else. With a roar, he threw himself between Varseth and the Snake Lady, dark magic piercing straight through his chest. Silver eyes widened in shock as the impact blasted him backward into the cavern wall. The jungle fell into sudden, stunned silence. Nyxera's emerald eyes widened for the first time in centuries. Alaric! She cried, his name ripping from her lips before she could stop it. The vampire lord slid down the stone wall, blood pouring from the wound in his chest. Varseth smiled in brutal triumph. Nyxera's coils trembled not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. Rage. And something else she had not felt for 400 years. Nyxera, the Snake Lady of the Forbidden Rainforest, stood frozen for a single, terrifying heartbeat as Lord Alaric Voss collapsed against the cavern wall. From the waist up, her flawless human form, smooth bronze skin, long jet-black hair, sharp regal cheekbones, and blazing emerald eyes twisted with a shock she had not felt in centuries. From the waist down, her massive, jet-black serpent body trembled, thick, muscular coils tightening so hard that stone cracked beneath their pressure. The glowing, ancient symbols carved into her glossy scales flared violently, bathing the battlefield in green light. Across from her, Alaric lay slumped, the tall, lean, pureblood vampire male with pale marble-like skin, now starkly stained with his own dark blood. His long ash-blonde hair clung to his face, his silver eyes dimming as the dark magic burned through his immortal chest. His black coat, with its crimson silk lining, was torn open around the wound that should not have been possible to survive. Something ancient and catastrophic broke loose inside Nyxera. The forest itself responded to her fury. Vines erupted from the earth, trees groaned as if alive, and the air thickened with venomous magic. Varseth laughed once more, towering and corrupted, his crimson eyes fixed with cruel satisfaction on the fallen vampire. You see, Serpent Queen? He mocked. Even immortals fall when they stand in my way. Nyxera lifted her head slowly, her emerald eyes no longer calm, no longer curious, only wrath remained. Her human hands clenched into glowing claws as the magic in her blood surged violently through the symbols on her scales. The very ground vibrated as her massive serpent body uncoiled to its full, devastating length. With a scream that split the night, Nyxera launched herself at Varseth with all the power of her ancient curse. Her speed shattered the air. One colossal coil wrapped around Varseth's torso, crushing inward with a thunderous force that shattered bone and ruptured immortal flesh. Dark blood sprayed across the trees. Varseth struck back with corrupted magic, black lightning ripping across Nyxera's bronze skin and scorching her scales. She did not slow. Her fangs pierced deep into his shoulder, flooding him with venom so pure and ancient it made his corrupted power scream in defiance. Varseth roared in pain, staggering as Nyxera flung him through 3 massive trees like a broken weapon. Around them, the remaining vampires faltered. The sight of their leader being overpowered by the Serpent Queen shattered their confidence. Still, a dozen of them rushed Alaric's fallen body, sensing weakness and fresh immortal blood. Even wounded and barely conscious, Lord Alaric Voss moved. His silver eyes flared faintly as he forced his broken body upright. Blood streamed from the gaping hole in his chest, yet his posture remained that of a ruler. With shaking hands, he summoned what little power remained. Shadow wrapped around him like armor. 2 attackers were torn apart mid-leap by unseen force. A third reached him, fangs flashing, but Alaric's claws found its throat first, ripping it open in a spray of blackened blood before he collapsed once more to his knees. Nyxera saw him fall again, and the fragile thread of control she still held snapped completely. With a savage twist of her coils, she crushed Varsith's ribcage until his corrupted heart was exposed and beating wildly beneath torn flesh. She stared into his crimson eyes with expressionless emerald fire. "You touched what is mine," she said in a voice that shook both jungle and sky. Varsith tried to speak, to threaten, to laugh, but Nyxera struck first. Her venom flooded his heart directly. Ancient poison met corrupted immortality in a violent war of magic and blood. Varsith's scream echoed across the valley as his body convulsed, blackened, and finally shattered into drifting ash that scattered like burned snow across the forest floor. The remaining vampires fled in chaos, their confidence broken, their leader erased. The jungle swallowed their retreat with snapping branches and screaming wards reawakening as Nyxera's power reasserted itself. When silence finally returned, it was heavy and unreal. Smoke rose from scorched earth, broken bodies crumbled into nothing. Only 2 figures remained standing in the heart of destruction, the Serpent Queen and the fallen vampire lord. She turned toward slowly. Nyxera moved with unsteady grace, her massive serpent body sliding toward Alaric as her human upper form reached out with trembling hands. She lifted the tall, lean vampire male into her arms again, his pale skin now gray with damage that even immortality struggled to mend. His silver eyes barely opened as she cradled him against her bronze chest, his blood staining her skin and glowing symbols alike. "Do not die," she whispered hoarsely, the words tearing from her lips against her will. "Do not leave me with this silence." She carried him swiftly back into the glowing cavern, into the heart of her sacred lair where her full power flowed strongest. Inside the cavern, Nyxera laid Alaric upon the black stone slab once more. His long, ash-blonde hair spread messily across the surface, his chest rising only faintly. The wound was far worse than before. Dark magic still burned within him, resisting her poison, resisting healing itself. Nyxera pressed both glowing hands to his chest, pouring ancient energy directly from her blood into his. The symbols along her serpent body blazed white-hot as she pushed power into him that she had never shared with any living or undead being. The cavern shook violently. Outside, the jungle winds howled as if mourning. Inside, light and shadow clashed over the heart of a dying vampire. Alaric's silver eyes suddenly snapped open. Pain ripped through him, but so did life. He gasped sharply, dark blood coughing from his lips as his immortal heart forced itself into rhythm again. Nyxera's emerald eyes filled his fading vision, blazing with something that was no longer only power or command. It was fear. Genuine, terrible fear. "You should not have done that," he whispered weakly. "You traded too much of yourself for me." Nyxera's coils tightened around the stone slab as she leaned closer. "I am eternal," she said softly. "And now, so are you, bound to my blood." Outside the cavern, far beyond the shattered jungle wards, forces far older than both serpent and vampire stirred at the shock of her sacrifice. And as Nyxera felt the first unfamiliar ache of weakness pulse through her immortal body, she did not yet realize that saving the vampire she was falling in love with had awakened enemies far more dangerous than any coven. Nyxera, the snake lady of the forbidden rainforest, lay coiled weakly near the black stone slab where Lord Alaric Voss now breathed again. From the waist up, her once flawless human form, smooth bronze skin, long jet-black hair, sharp regal cheekbones, and piercing emerald eyes was now pale with strain, her glow dimmed by the immense power she had given. From the waist down, her massive jet-black serpent body was still thick and powerful, but the ancient symbols along her glossy scales flickered faintly instead of blazing with their usual dominance. She had traded a piece of her immortal essence to save another being for the first time in 400 years. Before her lay Alaric, the tall, lean pureblood vampire male with pale marble-like skin, long ash-blonde hair spread across the stone, silver eyes slowly regaining their deadly light. The dark magic wound in his chest pulsed as serpent power warred with corrupted curse inside his immortal veins. Alaric gasped again as sensation returned to his body in burning waves. The black coat, lined with crimson silk, clung tightly to his frame, torn and stiff with dried blood. His narrow lips parted as he drew in a breath he should not need, but now desperately craved. Slowly, with visible effort, he turned his silver eyes toward Nyxera. Even weakened, she towered beside him, half woman, half monstrous serpent, a living goddess of poison and command. "You are fading," he said hoarsely. "Your symbols? They are dim." He tried to rise, but his newly restored body still trembled under unfamiliar magic. Nyxera forced her coils to tighten beneath her, lifting her upper body despite the weakness clawing through her veins. "I am not fading," she replied coldly, though the lie was thin. "I merely spent what I could afford to lose." Yet even as she spoke, she felt the truth in her bones. She had crossed a line carved by ancient law. Serpent queens were never meant to merge their essence with another immortal. That bond rewrote destinies. Her emerald eyes lingered on Alaric longer than necessary, tracing the sharp lines of his face, the renewed glow in his silver gaze, the steady rise and fall of his chest. She felt his heartbeat now, not through sound, but through magic. It echoed inside her. Alaric pushed himself upright at last, his tall frame unsteady but alive with renewed predatory power. His pale skin now carried a faint emerald undertone, where her magic had sunk in permanently. His ash-blonde hair fell over his forehead as he studied her with troubled intensity. "You bound me to you," he said. "I feel it in my blood. Your venom guards my heart now." He placed a hand over his chest where the wound had been. "No dark magic remains there. Only you." Nyxera turned her face away, unsettled by the truth of his words. "You were mine to protect," she answered. "A trespasser under my domain becomes my responsibility until his fate is sealed." Her voice softened against her will. "You were not meant to survive, Varseth." Alaric gave a faint, bitter smile. "Neither was I." Then his expression grew serious. "But now I have, and so have you. Whatever you have done, Nyxera, the ancient powers have felt it." His silver eyes flicked toward the cavern ceiling as the enchanted crystals shuddered ominously. Something vast has shifted in the balance of immortal law. As if summoned by his words, the cavern trembled violently. The glowing moss dimmed. A shockwave rippled through the forest above, flattening trees in a widening circle. Nyxera's coils tightened in alarm as she felt the disturbance crash through the ley lines of her sacred territory. "The primordials," she whispered. "They have awakened." These were beings far older than serpent queens, older than vampire curses entities that governed the very rules of monstrous existence. They had slept since before her reign began. Now they were stirring because of the bond she had forbidden herself to form. Outside, the sky screamed. The blood-red moon was consumed by a swirling rift of green and violet fire. From it descended spectral shapes made of shifting light and shadow. Nyxera rose unsteadily to her full height, despite her weakness, her bronze skin regaining a hint of glow, her emerald eyes blazing defiantly, her massive jet-black serpent body coiling with renewed purpose as the ancient symbols across her scales flared in warning. Alaric stepped beside her, tall and resolute, shadow wrapping instinctively around his pale, lean frame. His silver eyes reflected the descending terror. "They have come for me," he said. "Or for what you made me." "They have come for both of us," Nyxera replied, "for breaking balance." Her coils shifted protectively in front of him without conscious thought. The primordial herald emerged fully from the rift, a towering being with a shifting form of bone, flame, and starlight. Its voice thundered through both forest and mind. "Serpent Queen Nyxera, you have violated the covenant of isolation. You have merged eternal essence with cursed blood. Its many eyes fixed on Alaric, and you, Vampire Lord, now carry power that does not belong to your kind." Nyxera lifted her chin proudly, her weakened body still radiating defiance. "I chose his survival," she declared. "If you seek payment, take it from me alone." Her emerald eyes did not waver as the herald's attention shifted to her. But before the primordial could answer, Alaric stepped forward. Tall, lean, silver-eyed, his pale face set with fierce resolve, he placed himself directly between the ancient entity and the Serpent Queen. "If a debt is owed," he said steadily, "then it is mine as much as hers. Her blood saved me. My life now belongs to her realm." He did not look back at Nyxara as he spoke, only forward toward annihilation. For the first time in her long existence, Nyxara felt true fear not for herself, but for another. Her heart twisted painfully as she watched the primordial's gaze fix upon Alaric with terrible interest. And in that moment, as ancient judgment hovered over the vampire lord bound to her by blood and fate, Nyxara finally understood the full truth of what she had done. She had not only saved a life, she had fallen in love. Nyxara, the snake lady of the forbidden rainforest, stood trembling yet unbroken as the primordial herald loomed before her. From the waist up, her human form remained striking despite her weakened state, smooth bronze skin now faintly dulled, long jet-black hair flowing wildly in the storm of ancient energy, sharp regal cheekbones, and blazing emerald eyes filled with defiant fire. From the waist down, her massive jet-black serpent body coiled protectively, the ancient glowing symbols etched into her glossy scales flickering between light and shadow as her power struggled to stabilize. At her side stood Lord Alaric Voss, the tall, lean, pureblood vampire male with pale, marble-like skin, long ash-blonde hair stirred by unseen winds, and piercing silver eyes reflecting both fear and resolve. His black coat lined with crimson silk fluttered behind him like torn wings, and the faint emerald glow within his chest marked where Nyxara's essence now lived within his immortal heart. The primordial herald raised a massive spectral arm, its shifting form of starlight and bone crackling with ancient authority. "The balance is broken," its many voices thundered as one. "A serpent queen has given essence, and a vampire has received what was forbidden. One of you must be unmade to restore the law of eternity." The jungle stiffened in terror, trees bowed. The sky darkened, as if awaiting sacrifice. Nyxara tightened her coils instinctively around Alaric, pulling him closer to her immense serpent body. "Take me," she said without hesitation. "My reign has been long, my forest will endure without me." Her emerald eyes softened as she looked at the tall vampire beside her. "But he must live." Alaric turned sharply toward her, his silver eyes wide with shock. "No," he said fiercely. "You do not get to decide that alone." His pale hand pressed against her bronze skin, feeling the heat of her weakening magic beneath his fingers. "You gave me life when I was already dead. I will not allow your execution to pay for my survival." He stepped forward again, placing himself directly before the herald. "If one must be unmade," he said steadily, "then let it be the vampire whose blood was already cursed." Nyxara's breath caught. For centuries, she had ruled alone, unchosen, untouched by devotion. Now, this undead lord, this predator of night, offered his existence without flinching. The symbols along her serpent body flared violently as emotion surged through her power. "Alaric," she whispered, her voice unsteady for the first time in 400 years. "You are bound to my blood. If you fall, a part of me falls with you." The primordial herald studied them in silence, its many eyes shifting between Serpent Queen and Vampire Lord. At last, its thunderous voice softened into something closer to curiosity. "You offer yourselves freely. Such unity between cursed kinds is unprecedented." The rift in the sky pulsed as if the universe itself weighed their fate. Then the herald spoke again. "There exists one path of balance, not of death, but of transformation." The air compressed violently, crushing breath from both immortal beings. Ancient power flooded the cavern and forest alike. Nyxara cried out as the glowing symbols on her glossy black serpent scales ignited with blinding intensity, flooding her entire massive body with searing light. Alaric screamed as the emerald glow in his chest exploded outward, merging his silver-eyed vampiric essence with Nyxara's serpent magic completely. Their separate powers clashed, fused, and rewrote one another at the core of existence itself. The jungle roared as ley lines snapped into new formation. When the light finally died, silence fell like sacred ash. Nyxara collapsed first, her massive serpent body shrinking rapidly as ancient energy reshaped her form. Alaric caught her as she fell, his tall, lean frame cradling her now fully human upper body as it fused seamlessly with newly formed legs in place of her serpent tail. The transformation left her weakened but alive, entirely alive in a way she had never been. Her bronze skin still shimmered faintly, her long jet-black hair spilling over Alaric's arms, her emerald eyes fluttering open in frightened disbelief. Alaric, too, had changed. The cursed hunger that had ruled him for centuries was gone. His silver eyes remained luminous, but warm now. His pale skin no longer burned under the faint touch of dawn's creeping light at the cavern entrance. He was no longer fully vampire, no longer fully monster. He was something new. The primordial herald's form began to dissolve back into the rift. Balance is restored through unity, it declared. You are now bound not by curse, nor by law, but by choice. Neither serpent queen nor vampire lord shall rule alone again. With that, the rift sealed, the sky cleared, and the ancient presence vanished forever. Dawn broke over the shattered rainforest valley for the first time in centuries. Golden sunlight poured through the canopy and into the cavern, touching Nyxara's face. She blinked in wonder, never before having felt true morning warmth. Alaric held her carefully, his silver eyes soft with awe. "You are warm," he whispered. "Alive in the sun." Nyxara touched his cheek with trembling fingers, feeling the steady human rhythm of his heart beneath her palm. "And you no longer hunger," she replied. Their immortality had not been stripped away, but reshaped into something gentler, shared. In the months that followed, the Forbidden Valley transformed. The wards remained strong, but no longer isolated. Nyxara, no longer bound to her serpent form, ruled beside Alaric as protector rather than tyrant. She still carried ancient power within her shimmering emerald eyes and bronze skin, and he still bore the strength and wisdom of centuries behind his silver gaze and calm authority. Together, half serpent queen and half vampire lord, neither fully monster nor fully mortal, they forged a new reign, one where ancient curses no longer dictated destiny. And so the legend spread across hidden worlds, that once, a snake lady and a vampire male defied the laws of eternity itself not through war, but through sacrifice and love. In shadow and in dawn, they remained together, eternal not because fate demanded it, but because they chose it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.